It is a wonderful pleasure to welcome Addison Brooklyn to this podcast. She is a musician hailing from Newfoundland, Canada. How are you today, Addison? Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, I hope are having a good weekend thus far.
Yes, I am. Are you?
Yeah, I went for my cousin's wedding earlier today.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it was fun, even though he's not my favorite person, so the enjoyment was rather dampened. But
Fair
wedding.
enough.
There you go. So, I read that you work at the Music NL organization. So tell me about your role there.
Yes, I do. I got hired on earlier this summer. I was originally supposed to work with them last year, but my schedule didn't meet up with like university and stuff. So, I started working with them this summer and I was the arts administrator there. And basically, I would deal with like any members that have signed up. Um, and anything that they needed, I would help like organize events and plan shows across St. John's or even like across Newfoundland. And yeah, I would just, kind of help deal with like the members.
Mhm. Tell me about the Music NL organization.
So the Music NL organization is basically a place where musicians can join and it helps them get more recognized, get more gigs, exposure. They can come together and meet new musicians. They can get like loans if they wanted to like start an album or something like that. Yeah, it's a really wonderful organization. The CEO is Rhonda Tolk Lane. She's a very lovely person and she's so supportive.
Mhm. Yeah, I got to know various members from the Newfoundland music scene via doing this podcast. I think Mallory Johnson, I think Jenny Mallard, and Paige Penny, I think to name a few. So,
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I know a couple of them.
mhm. Yeah, so give us like a word or two about like the music scene there and your involvement in it.
The music scene, we have a very broad music scene here, all types of genres. I found with working with Music NL, we have something called Newfoundland Celebration Week. And it's basically where we give out awards for people that have been like working on albums and stuff like that. And we have like awards for basically every genre you can think of music. People do a lot of like rock or indie or alternative music. So yeah, there's a lot of different genres of music here. It's very open. One of the big things here in Newfoundland, we're very proud of our folk music
Mhm.
because we have a really I guess prominent culture here. So folk music here is definitely something to listen to. It's like nowhere else in the world.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
So yeah, I know a couple of other musicians that do some folk. Darcy Scott, just to name one of them, is a folk artist here.
Hmm.
And it's more of like traditional music. I do a bit of folk. I'm working on an upcoming album now where I'll be doing some Newfoundland traditional music in it. Um, so we'll be recording with some well-known artists here in the province. And yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, I had Darcy on the show not too long ago. Yeah, we had a fun conversation.
nice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell me about the upcoming album that you have in store.
Yeah, so I actually have two upcoming albums, but so the first one is going to be a traditional album, like a folk album, and I'll have like Newfoundland-based songs written about Newfoundland. One of the songs is the Isle that we call Bell, and it's written about Bell Island. I wrote it when I was coming across the ferry from Bell Island. It's a little island just off of Newfoundland, and it has like mining tours and it has a beach. It's a very nice place to visit. And my album talks a little bit about like the past of Newfoundland, the history. I also have another like a pirate song because there used to be a pirate that sailed off the coast of Newfoundland, Peter Easton. So I have a song with a character based off of him. And I have a few upbeat songs. There's going to be traditional instruments in it, such as like fiddle and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to get working on that and play some of my traditional music. And I'm also recording a second album, which is more of the songs that I have been recording in the past. Songs that I've been working on over the years and now. And I'm doing that myself there now.
Mhm. Yeah, and I look forward to your two releases. I'd like to talk more about your previous album. It is titled Let It Sink In. So tell
Yes.
me about the making of that one.
So I started writing music a very long time ago. And the oldest song on that album is titled Rosie. And I wrote Rosie when I was in grade 9. That was back in 2019. And that is kind of when I decided, like, I think I want to, go somewhere with music. And Let It Sink In is a concept album advocating for mental health because there's a lot of stories on that song or that album that talk about mental health and the struggles of it. So starting from the first song, I have Loser on that album. So that song is more of like an alternative, punk song. And I recorded that with Dave Fitzpatrick from the Fables in his studio. He's a local musician here in Newfoundland, and he's recorded songs like Peter Street and stuff like that. So Loser is like a song that has like electric guitar, drums and stuff. And it's about like a breakup that I went through. And I found writing that song, I was really able to like cope with some of the emotions that I was going through. And I've had, some people come up to me and tell me that it's helped them getting through their breakups. And it's basically about like female empowerment and how you should like recognize your self-worth and kind of recognize if you're like being used in a situation, and all about how you are so much more than just one person's opinion. So that's kind of where I wrote Loser. And the second song on that album is titled Opalite. And opalite is a stone, it's like a rock or a gemstone. It's man-made, but in spirituality, many people believe that it gets you through like hard times. And so I wrote a song titled Opalite, and I wrote it to my friend. And it's basically talking about how I'm going to be there for them always. And it's the words that I want them to hear when they're feeling down in the moment. And just, yeah, kind of what I would tell them when they're not feeling well, and what I would want someone to tell me when I'm not having the greatest night. So yeah, and then the third song on that track is Rosie, and it's a re-recording. I originally recorded Rosie, I think back in 2021, but I re-recorded it for this album. And so it's Rosie version 2.
Mhm.
And Rosie is a song about just being so much in love with someone that you don't even realize that they're right there in front of you and you miss out on them. And I wrote Rosie back when I was in grade 9, and I think it's one of my first successful songs, and Rosie's very dear to me. So yeah, it wasn't written about anyone in particular, but now I kind of put it into place for people when I find I get into a situation similar to that. And then next, I have the song My Music Sounds Better with Headphones. And that is kind of like a piano interlude, because I do write some classical piano music. I am classically trained in piano. And yeah, so that's just a song to kind of like break up the two if I'm doing like a set of my full album, I can just have that playing in the background while I'm like changing a setup. The next song on the album is called Never Mine. And I wrote it when I was in the 10th grade, I believe. And it's about being in love with someone that you never actually dated. And just kind of like the feeling of that, and that person being in love with that same person too at the same time, and you don't really realize that they like you at the same time. So I write my songs about like stories that have happened to me before, so that kind of helped me in that moment. My friend Philip Clark, he is also a musician, he joined me on that song because it's a duet. So yeah, I was able to have Philip come on and sing that song, and it's a very dear song to me. And then next we have one of my favorite songs on the album. It's called Daydream. And I wrote this after a breakup as well. My friend Bruce Smith was able to join me on this song on guitar. And this song is about kind of when you get into a relationship, sometimes we fantasize about what the relationship could have been, and we kind of make up, what that person is in our head, and it's not really how the person is in real life. So, yeah, that's kind of what I wrote that song about. One of the lyrics is, I loved falling in love with the idea of you, made you up in my head because I didn't have a clue. You're different than the person I always thought you knew. You're not who I thought you'd be. So it's about, kind of making up the ideal version of that person when they're not actually that. And I find going through breakups and stuff like that, that song kind of helps me realize, like, okay, you're sometimes people aren't what you expect them to be, and that's completely out of your control. So yeah, the next song I have on the album is called The Fog, and I wrote that song. It's about stepping out of depression. Depression is something that I've openly struggled with throughout my whole life. And, that song is about finally accepting the help from your friends and accepting that, you can be beautiful, and you can love yourself, and things do get better over time. And, you're not always going to be in this dark fog. You're not always going to be in this forest. So yeah, I think The Fog is a really important song for me because it helps me realize that there's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. I really advocate for mental health, and I think music is a way that connects people and brings them together. And especially when you're having such dark feelings, you can transform that music into something, so powerful. So the next song I have on that album is called Nostalgia Hurts, and it's another piano interlude, and it ties together The Fog and the song after that, titled Let It Sink In. It's the self-titled song. But Nostalgia Hurts is a mixture of both of those songs, and it's some classical piano, and I have some rain sounds in the back of it. And yeah, and then the next song is Let It Sink In, which is the self-titled album. And a fun fact about that, I wrote Let It Sink In 3 days before I released the album. I had the idea in my head of what I wanted to write it about, but Let It Sink In wasn't written until 3 days before I had to go perform this album in front of a crowd of people, and it was really cool. But Let It Sink In is talking about how sometimes as people we focus too much on the past or the future that you never really get to live in the present. And it's so important to live in the present because you miss out on so much if you don't. And the present is so important. It's a gift. So yeah, and I have some metaphors in there. And it's probably one of my favorite songs that I've ever written. Let It Sink In is very important to me, but yeah, it basically talks about some mental health struggles that I've had in the past, and I found it has helped other people to relate.
Mhm.
So yeah, the next song is titled Until Then, and I wrote that about my grandmother and realizing how oftentimes in life you're not always going to have those important people around you all the time, and it's so important to be with them in the moment. And yeah, a lot of my songs are talking about how it is so important to live in the moment, because something that I struggle with myself is thinking about the past too much or thinking about the future. And then finally, the last song on that album is Before I Say So Long. And this is a very dear song to me. Um, it talks about the severity of mental health struggles and how hard it can be sometimes. And I've had people listen to that song and tell me like how they've related to that song. And I do find it does bring people together, because there's something reassuring in knowing that you're not alone when you have these dark feelings. And I just think it's really beautiful that music can do that. So yeah, that's a little bit about my album that I released last year.
Mhm. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank
Um,
you.
so I get the sense that much of the songs in the album are intensely personal. So
Yes.
there's the idea that perhaps you are taking up music making as a way to deal with the certain mental troubles that you're having. Would that be a correct assessment?
Yeah, it's definitely it helps me, but a big part of it is I write it for other people to connect with it and help them know that they're not alone. Like for example, Opalite is what I would want to tell anyone. It's what I would want anyone to hear when they're feeling alone and in the dark.
And I do hear that a recurring theme of your songwriting is relationships and breakup. So
Yeah.
what brings your attention to this particular thematic element?
I think relationships are something that everyone kind of goes through, and it's just a very relatable topic because I've had a fair few like breakups in the past, and one of the ways that I get over that is to write about it. And music has always helped me heal, and I've found from like coming from other people, um it's helped them heal as well, and just hearing that you're not alone in a situation, it can be really beautiful, because breakups aren't always that bad. They seem awful in the moment, and so many people go through them because loss is such a hard thing that we as humans have to deal with. But I think finding a song that you relate to, it helps really brighten the mood, and it helps you move on from that.
Yeah, I've actually been through a quite a few disillusions of relationships before. Many of them
Hmm.
actually occurred in Canada.
Okay.
And yeah, I was there for 4 years as an undergraduate.
Perfect. What did you study?
English literature.
Beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah. I was in Ontario though, but I would like to visit St. John's in Newfoundland at some point. Uh,
Yeah, it is a very beautiful place here. The culture is so rich, and yeah, it's a very beautiful place to visit.
and yeah, one thing that I've learned is that I think I should never have put myself in a situation where I fall head over heels over someone without getting to know them. I think that's a helpful
Definitely.
way to to draw lessons
Yeah.
from it.
That definitely relates to my song Daydream, because like I said earlier, sometimes you can just fall for someone so hard and kind of make up what you would want them to be like, and you kind of fantasize everything about the relationship, but you can't control another person's actions. At the end of the day, the only person's actions you can control are your own. So it's something so important to like, realize what's actually going on in the present.
Mhm. So you mentioned being in the university. So what college are you in?
So last year I attended Memorial University and I also studied English, and I did French as well. But I realized it wasn't for me. I did love it, but it wasn't the career path I wanted to go with.
Mhm.
Um, and so I ended up taking a break from that. And I'm actually glad that I took a break from that because following my break from Memorial University, I ended up having a seizure, and it was a very serious seizure. And I ended up losing my license, so I couldn't really go anywhere. And it was just after I moved out on my own. And so I was, kind of on my own for a good part of my life without like any transportation. So I would do a lot of walking places. But I had a lot of health issues following the seizure. One of the things being a condition called oculogyrate crisis, and it's a very rare condition. And it's where your eyes basically lose control of their movement. So with me, they kind of roll up in the back of my head, and they're unable to come down for a long time, and they only usually go away if I go to sleep. And I'm medicated for this now, but the medication doesn't always work. The doctors are still trying to figure it out because it is a very rare condition. But university would have been much, much harder going through these health conditions. So I'm seeing the right people now. I'm seeing a neurologist, and I finally just got my license back. And it's things have been looking up lately, especially with my health conditions. But I was recently diagnosed with epilepsy. The seizure, led to the diagnosis that I've had epilepsy all my life. And I only found out back in March of 2023. So yeah, so that was a little a dark time in my life, I want to say. But I wasn't in school from March until August, and I finally found my passion in music. So now I am attending music school at the College of the North Atlantic, and I'm doing the applied music program. So that's where I am now.
Yeah, and congratulations. And sorry about what you had to go through.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that it's over now, but it did get me where I needed to be. I feel like everything happens for a reason.
Mhm.
So, I might have been in English last year, but I feel like everything had happened the way it was supposed to happen because now I'm doing music and now I'm doing what I truly love. And I feel like I'm where I'm meant to be right now.
Mhm. All right, that's good to hear. Um, Last year I was in Vienna, Austria, and I recently moved to Budapest. I completed a year in my master's program at international studies, but neither the school nor the program fitted me. I actually had a terrible time in Vienna. That's why I don't think I'll be coming back soon. But
Mhm.
so far, the program in Budapest, which is different, is American Studies. That's been beneficial to me thus far, and I found a good group of people to hang out with.
Awesome. Well, I'm sorry it was a bad time at first, but like I said, I think things happen for a reason, so it's probably good where you are now.
Yeah, I certainly hope so.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
do you find that the search for understanding regarding, not just mental health, but the troubles that you've been through, has it been a difficult or an easy search?
Um, it's definitely been a difficult experience for sure. I think no matter who you are, everyone goes through rough times in their life. Um, and it can affect anyone at any age, any person at all. So, yeah, I would say it's been difficult.
Mhm. I see. So I wonder if musicians are more in tune with what you're going through than say non-musicians. Would that be the case?
I do feel like musicians have a very high emotional intelligence because they're able to take stories from other people and connect other people together. Um, Musicians are able to, take a feeling and use like a note or a key or a melody and make you feel that way through that certain note or through that lyric. And if you listen to a musician, you're like, hey, I relate with you. I feel that too. And there's just something so beautiful about that because music does bring everyone together. But yeah, I would say that musicians are very in tune with that.
Yeah. Have you able to find like a sufficient help, not just professionally, but community wise as well?
Yeah, I'm very content at where I am right now in life. I've definitely had some dark times in the past, but I do feel like, everyone kind of goes through their ups and downs. Recovery is not linear, that's for sure. But um, I think music has been the main thing that has helped me. And not just writing about it, but connecting with other musicians who have been through the same thing and write about those same things and hearing their work and hearing their story. I think there's just something so beautiful about that. But I don't think I'd be where I am today without music.
Mhm. Who are some of the musicians who've inspired you?
Hayley Williams from Paramore
Mhm.
definitely is a huge one. She kind of does the same as me. She advocates for mental health and she writes stories, and through her stories she connects people and brings them together. She writes about relationships and mental health and just things that she's gone through in life, and I think her music has really helped me, and that's honestly what I aspire to do with my music. I just want to help other people.
You should try listening to Fiona Apple. Have you heard of her?
I have heard of her. I haven't listened to her though.
She's able to make some of the most traumatic subjects, sound in some ways, easier to take in, and I would say in some cases, darkly funny. An example,
Mm,
which would be her album from 2020, is titled "Fetch the Bolt Cutters," and it's a very unique album. You should really listen to it. Like,
okay, perfect.
yeah, it's very bizarre in first listening because so 2020 is the year that everyone's in lockdown, right? So
Yes.
she makes the album sounds like it was made in her kitchen.
Okay.
So the instruments and the sound and such are kind of like some stuff that you find like kitchen tools like pots and pans and such. And
Okay, that's
yeah,
really interesting.
yeah, and creates a very odd sound, but the lyrical matter, the subject matter is something that is very dark, I'll say.
Yeah, definitely.
And
I find a lot of musicians do that, and like I said, like not only with me, but with other musicians, like it really does help bring people together and, see things in a new light because what one person's outlook on it, like another person might have a different outlook on something. And I think that's what's so beautiful about art. Like it's open to interpretation.
there's a very commonplace theme in not just musicianship, but artistic endeavor about the idea of finding yourself. And it can sound cliche at first, but it is true that it is up to us to a certain extent to define the person that, well, one, we are, and two, what we should be.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you're going through the same process regarding, not just your music, but your personal life as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think music definitely does help, you find yourself. And especially I do know like the past year I took a break from music and I didn't really play it as much as I used to. I used to live and breathe music, but I got into a relationship where I didn't really focus on that music as much anymore. But once I was able to get out of the relationship, I found that I've found myself again through music.
And you've alluded to a certain idea that, you know, once you're in a bad relationship, the end of that relationship may be also, distressing and traumatizing, but at the same time, it can also be liberating because one,
Yeah,
this bad period of your life has ended, and two, you're free to do some of the things that you like.
definitely. I'm writing a couple of new songs about that now, actually. Um, it definitely does cause a lot of hard feelings because, you're losing a person, you're losing that routine. But what you have to keep in mind is at the end of the day, you are the only person that you need to be looking after. You're not responsible for anyone else's actions. And, um, no matter what happens, you really just need to find yourself and work on yourself because you are the most important person in your own life. And sometimes it's hard to see that, but it is so, so important to work on yourself. And sometimes when you get into a relationship, it's harder to see that because you're focusing on the other person so much. But you should never be in a relationship where you're not allowed to focus on yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think there's a very fine line between the idea of self-sufficiency, that it's you're content with your own being, and I think I've had to
100%.
learn that. I've had to learn that the hard way because I was busy pursuing a relationship because I believe in this idea that you're not complete until you find another person, which can be true to a certain extent. The other person can be very fulfilling for you, but at the same time, you cannot you cannot seek a relationship if you're not content with your own person, because if you're not even
Definitely,
content with your own company, then who's how can you expect other people to be content with you, for example? but
definitely.
but at the same time, what I was trying to get at is that how do you stop the talk of self-sufficiency from crossing over into selfishness?
I think at the end of the day, what you need to look at is as long as you're not hurting other people, Um, I am known for being almost too selfless. I kind of focus on everyone else first before I would focus on myself. And right now I'm learning how to focus on myself. I'm learning how to be alone. And that can be a hard thing. But there is a line there that you don't want to cross where it is selfishness. And I think that line is when you're hurting other people, that's when it becomes selfish, when you're only thinking about yourself. It is so important to think about yourself, but you need to find that balance where other people matter too, and you need to take their feelings into consideration.
Mhm. Yeah, I understand. And secondly, I think with with all the, like, I guess, current culture regarding mental health and mental wellness, it it can be quite easy for a given person who may go through like genuine challenges in regard to his or her mental well-being to feel sorry for themselves. And I think it's not an attitude that one wishes to perpetuate. I think you should find a solution to why you're feeling this way rather than lamenting your condition and and even inevitably blaming the world for what it's going on with you, right?
Definitely. At the end of the day, like I said earlier, you can only control your own actions, and you have to want to get better. You have to want to help yourself because no one else, like you can get professional help, you can get advice from your friends, you can have supports around you, but you have to be the one to get better for yourself. You have to want to push yourself and you need to have that drive. And I think that's something so important. And struggling with like depression, sometimes it's hard to find that reason why you need to get up in the morning. But, sometimes you just have to push through it. And believe me, I've been there. It's a hard thing to deal with. Um, it's something that you can't control. But at the end of the day, you do need to get better for yourself.
It is, yeah. And you've alluded to it earlier in that you have to determine what areas of your life are you able to exert control of and what you're not, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. So how have you worked out that distinction?
Um, kind of working on myself, I've realized, like I've said before, you can control your own actions and how you interact with other people. A big thing is, I think empathy is a really big thing to have. And, just realizing that other people, they're just like you, they're just trying to get through their day. You have no idea what someone else is going through.
Mhm.
So, you have certain things in your life that you can control, like how you treat other people. But, some things you can't control how other people treat you, which is, it is a hard thing to swallow. Like, you can control how you treat other people, but at the end of the day, they're going to treat you how they treat you, and you can't do anything about that.
Mhm. So let's talk about your latest release, which is the song titled Your Hazel Eyes. So tell me about
Yes.
that song.
That song I wrote just after a breakup. It was the first song I had written in like 6 months, I think. And like I said, like in that relationship, I wasn't writing music. I was so focused on that relationship that I lost myself. And at the end, like during that breakup, I thought that like, it was the end of the world. I had just lost a person that was so dear to me, but I realized in losing that person, I was able to find myself. And that's what Your Hazel Eyes is kind of about. Um, it is about losing a person that is so dear to you. But sometimes breakups are a blessing in disguise because you know, you need to focus on yourself at the end of the day. And in that relationship, I don't think I was focusing on myself. They will always be a very dear person to me, but you need to know your worth. And I think I lost my worth during that relationship. I'm glad it happened. I learned so many things from it. But I don't think I would ever go back to it because I'm finally finding myself and figuring out who I am. I'm writing music again. I'm doing what I love, and I found just losing myself put me in a dark place. So, Your Hazel Eyes was, written kind of about that relationship. And once I wrote that song, I was able to put that relationship behind me and it's in the past. Like I said, I'm glad it happened, but it helped me get over it so much.
Mhm. So was this if you don't mind sharing, like a particularly turbulent relationship?
For the most part, no. It was definitely the best relationship I've ever had. Um, it started last year, and we met through a play that we were doing. And not many people know, but I don't only do music, I do a lot of acting too. And acting is a very important thing in my life. So, yeah, we met through this play and um, everything went very smoothly. We connected very well, but this person had their own issues that they were dealing with. And, they couldn't, focus on the other half, I guess, of that relationship. And sometimes you can't really control their actions either. They were dealing with their own stuff. So, um, yeah, it had to end.
Mhm. May I ask, what was the play that you were doing?
It was called The Play That Goes Wrong, by Mattis Hops Productions. And it's a comedy play. It's about the murder at Haversham Manor, and it's about this murder, but the characters aren't really prepared for the play, and everything kind of goes wrong in this play, and it's a comedy, and the play sold out. It was an amazing play, but yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, tell me more about your acting career, so to speak.
Yeah, so I've acted in a wide variety of plays and musicals and short films, but currently I'm doing a play now with the same production company called The Grown Ups. And yeah, acting not only helps you find yourself, but it helps you connect with other people just as music does.
So, what has been your most memorable acting gig?
Um, there was a very wise person, one of my dearest friends, Brianna Russell. She's in Ontario now doing film school, but she wrote a play called Itself. And it was about how fear controls all of your other emotions. And I got the lead role in it. I was Fear. And we performed it for a drama festival. But it was definitely the most memorable thing I've ever been a part of because it not only helped me connect with so many other people, but it helped me find myself and how my emotions were affected by fear and how to kind of overcome that. I had a lot of really inspiring monologues in that play. And there was so much symbolism and metaphors. And yeah, I think Brianna's work is truly phenomenal.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about your own relationship with fear as a state of being.
When I was younger, I found fear really controlled my life, and I was scared a lot of the time. I dealt with anxiety as a kid. I didn't really know I had anxiety, but it definitely controlled a big part of my life. And doing this play helped me, take off that blindfold, which is what the play is about. Fear blindfolds you, but it helped me take off my own blindfold and realize that fear only controls you if you let it.
Mhm. You mentioned earlier about how, we can be caught up in either the past or the future or both without living in the present. And I think fear may be a perverse motivator of that.
Yes, definitely. Um, Fear, especially when it comes to the future, because it's so uncertain, you don't know what's going to happen. Or fear of the past, like if things are going to come back and haunt you again, or just thinking about that. But fear definitely controls those two things. But the present is the only thing that you can determine because, like I said, you can only determine your actions, and your actions are in the present. They're not in the past. You can't change what happened in the past, and you can't do anything about the future until it comes.
Mhm. Yeah, I understand. Um, so what is your present day outlook on, well, one, the past and two, the future?
Um, I think the past is something that can be beautiful because you can have memories from it. Um, I have a lot of cherishable memories, especially when it comes to like music and acting, but there can also be some very hard memories. Um, and I do write a lot of my songs about some hard memories that I've had in the past. Um, but the future, because it's so uncertain, um, it's also very unnerving because, you don't know what's going to happen, but you are in control of your actions and, that can play a part in your own future. So you have to be the one who determines that.
Yeah, I think a good reminder to yourself is that I think the person you are now is a very different person than the person that you were then. And I think it
Yes,
helps.
definitely. Even 6 months ago, I think I'm a completely different person. I have found so much more confidence in myself and I found so much more love within myself. And I'm not only able to just love other people, but I'm able to love myself. A quote that I really love is, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? And I do think that's so important.
Yeah. I remember during my first like recovery from a breakup, as I was reminding myself of that movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray and Andy McDowell, where Bill Murray lives through the same day over and over again. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a wonderful movie, and yeah, I really thought that there were certain things that I did uh, that I could have like undone, or could have done differently, or something like that. And I think it happens, and I'm sure it might be the case that there were certain things that I've done by mistake that I didn't intend to, but eventually what I finally settled on is that it wasn't meant to be. Like me and this other person, like we weren't meant to be together. Our personalities are just not that compatible. So I wonder if that has ever happened to you.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time people get caught up in the what ifs of a relationship. But the reality is, you can't change anything that you've done. And, you know, if you're not meant to be, it's not meant to be. In my last relationship, I really thought that we were meant to be, but obviously people have different paths in life and, you have no control about that. And that was something that I had to accept. I had to accept, I'm on a very different path in life than this other person was. And I am I'm very thankful that I am because, you know, like I said, the only person I can focus on and love is me.
Yeah, and I think another insight, I suppose, that I develop is a certain sense of charity to the other person. Like perhaps they didn't mean to cause you those hurt feelings, right? They obviously, at the base level, they were looking out for themselves, and they did, and they were motivated in part or in whole by their own previous experiences with different relationships. So, over time, the any feeling of resentment or whatever I have with them starts to fade away.
Definitely.
Mhm. So, another song that you've released this year is called "Thank You for Calling Goodbye." It's a collaborative single, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, tell me about that.
Um, yeah, I released that with my friend Tyler Butt, um, back in January, I believe. Um, and it is about cutting off contact with someone because they weren't right for you. It's yet again another relationship song about a breakup. It was the first time experimenting with like digital music. It's not really my style of music, but I really enjoyed recording it. He is such a talented person, and the song started off with me playing ukulele and writing my own lyrics, and I was like, "Hey, you can write your lyrics to this song too. Here's what it's about." And Tyler did an amazing job at working on the technical side of things and adding my ukulele into, the digital music. And Tyler added his own lyrics, so I thought that was really cool.
And what was the lyrical content of the song about?
Um, there's a lot of things going on in that song. One of them being is how sometimes people use escapism as a form of coping with things. I know, um, dealing with breakups, I definitely use escapism and like ways to distract myself. But it's about how sometimes um relationships don't end well and how you just honestly need to cut them out of your life, and sometimes that's the best thing that you need to do. And uh both of our sides of the story are in that song. So I'm singing one side of the story and Tyler is singing about how he doesn't want to be cut off.
So yeah, I think a good deal of crossover can be discussed between mental health and relationship. And of course, I think that, you don't need to be like and mentally healthy all the time in order to be in a relationship. But I think there's a certain degree of, like I said, self-sufficiency when it comes to taking care of your own mental health while you're in a relationship, because I think it is expected that you kind of have to look out for each other as well.
Of
And
course, yeah, there's no way you can take care of another person if you can't take care of yourself.
mhm, yeah, and of course, to the extent that you can or are free to look out for the other person's interest, you kind of have to sort through your own mess first and make sure that you keep yourself in a certain order so
Yeah,
that you can look out for the other person, right?
definitely.
And I think that can be challenging. I know that we've alluded to earlier where I believe that I used to believe that I was like insufficient, like without a relationship, and that the other person, like it's if I'm in a relationship with someone else, they have to quote unquote accept me for who I am and such. And
Yeah.
I don't believe that's the case. I think having a relationship is the purpose of which, even if the relationship goes bad, is to change you in some way, shape, or form.
Hmm. You can always learn from a relationship, no matter if it's good or bad.
Mhm. Yeah. So, what are some of the musicians that deal with the issues of relationship and breakup best in your view?
Um, I'm not even honestly like a huge listener of this person, but I do know Taylor Swift writes really good breakup songs,
Really?
um, and how she deals with them. I do know there's a lot of Swifties out there. I wouldn't call myself one, but I do recognize her work and that she does deal with those things really well. Bringing back again Hayley Williams from Paramore. Um, Her song "All I Wanted" is a really good song. Off of the album Brand New Eyes, which is my favorite album. I actually have a tattoo for that album.
Mhm,
But um, she deals with breakups very well. Um, so I do get some inspiration from those two artists.
mhm. Yeah, I don't call myself a Swiftie either.
Yeah.
I've had multiple people come on this program, and they say that they really enjoy Taylor Swift, but thus far I
Mhm.
cannot find the appeal. But perhaps it has more to do with being being a girl, because I know that I don't know any male friends that like Taylor Swift, but I know a lot of friends who are girls that like Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Um, right. I I don't know if you've thought about this a lot, but there's this word that is going out in these circles called parasocial relationships, and it's this idea that you create, so to speak, a one-sided social relationship with a given person, and I think it can goes with having a crush, so to speak, or a romantic affectation with someone who virtually doesn't reciprocate. And in many cases, the object of affection can be a famous musician,
Hmm.
because he or she writes songs that are intensely personal both to them and to you, and you feel like you are in a relationship with them, uh, but it is definitely not the case. So I wonder if you've gone through this problem before. I know that you've alluded to it earlier in one of your songs, right?
Um, I don't think with any other like artists that I haven't like met before. I think for me, I personally need to get to know the person. Um, there's been people who like, I've wanted to meet and like see their work, but yeah.
Yeah, and I guess in a less celebrity size scale, there are people who you do not know too well, or you've only met in passing, that you can develop something of a parasocial relationship to.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I wonder if whether that has ever happened to you. How do you check yourself from falling too far into, I guess, delirium or delusion?
Um, I think going back to that theme of really focusing on the present and um, being I think being sure of who you are is a big thing too. So you don't fall too much into the delusion. Um, like in my song Daydream. Daydream is about delusion and, thinking a person is different than what they are. I also wrote a song called One Last Lullaby.
Mhm.
And one of the lyrics are, I look at you, but you don't see me the way I wanted you to. And it's also another control thing because you want someone to see you a certain way, but you can't control that other person's actions.
Yeah, if you were to give an answer to the question, who are you, maybe after the whole, introducing your name and your, the facts about yourself, what would you say?
I am a person who cares deeply about other people and other people's mental health. And I'm a person that wants to connect people and bring everyone together, especially through music. I think I'm a very caring person and an empathetic person when it comes down to it. And whether I express that through acting, music, art, or even just talking, I think that's who I am as a person. And I think expressing myself through music and connecting people through music, I think that's kind of my purpose in life.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm not sure if we've mentioned this earlier, but how do you stop yourself from negative self-talk?
Daily affirmations is very important. Telling yourself you are beautiful, you are worth it. Um, you got to be the one to tell yourself that you are loved because at the end of the day, you're the only one that can do that for yourself. And sometimes I'll catch myself thinking negatively about myself and I'm like, no, like, you are worth it. You are special. Everyone on this earth has a purpose.
Final question, Addison. What does music mean to you?
Music means everything to me. Like I said before, I think there's something so beautiful that you can take such dark feelings and absolutely transform them into something as beautiful as a song or as beautiful as art. You can create love songs about other people. You can create stories about things that you've seen in your life. Music can do anything, and I think it's such an amazing way to express yourself. I think music should be a part of everyone's life because it's a way to show who you are and connect other people together.
On that wonderful, wonderful note, thank you very much, Addison Brooklyn, for joining this program.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this opportunity so much.